understanding the technology that powers the money is essential. Knowing the business drivers that inspire how the money is made is crucial. Bridging the gap between the mind of the technologist and the mind of the business is monumental. That is what TBF is all about. Let's start this never-ending conversation. It's time.
Happy New Year. Welcome to another episode of the Tech Behind FinTech. This is the first episode of 2023, and I am excited to be back. We took off last week, like many people did, for the holidays and for the break. Hope everyone enjoyed their holiday break, their New Year's, and so forth. We are excited to be back this year. Have a range of interesting topics we'll be discussing over the next few months, and we'll also be bringing in some really interesting guests upcoming. So excited to say the least. It's so funny, like you get used to doing this every week when I took a break. Definitely happy to take the break. I mean, it was needed. I got some really good quality time with the fam. But I'm excited to be back. What are we talking about today? Today's episode, we're going to be talking about the evolving landscape of cybersecurity and what to expect in 2023. Basically, did some research around some trends, some different things like that, and we're going to dive into it. Like always, with our show, we go into some news topics. That's going to be brief. It's a couple of breaches I want to touch base on and so forth. And then we will jump into the main topic of the show. Like always, at any point in time with the show, please feel free to drop some comments if you have some questions. If you want to just add to the conversation, or you might have some insight to something we discussed. If the comments are appropriate, I will post it so that everyone else can see and you'll be part of the video. Some housekeeping things. We are streaming live from Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitch, and we also have a stream going from Instagram. So to all my people on Instagram, thank you for joining. I'm just going to do a couple of quick waves. If you have questions on Instagram, you can post it, or the website, Tech Behind FinTech, is pinned. If you go there, you can see the show live and look at all the comments other people are commenting, and you can post comments too on the YouTube link and so forth. So without further ado, let's jump into it today. All right, where do we start? I'm going to add also, if you are viewing it from the other platforms besides Instagram, you can see some of the slides and things that we put up that we talk through. If you're listening to this on a podcast, then you just have the audio, which is perfectly fine as well. Okay, just getting some things in order. I think we're good to go. All right, let's see what we're going to discuss first. So here's the topics. We're going to go over some big tech layoffs that's happening within different sector. We leverage this layoffs.com platform for that. And then we're going to go over, forget this. Yeah, this is this two stuff, this Wells Fargo. I'm going to skip that. We're going to go over Slack, and then we're going to go over some Twitter breaches. So disregard what was on the slide, those other two bullet points. And then we're going to jump into the main topic, the evolving landscape of cybersecurity, what to expect in 2023. So first topic of the day, let's go through this list. Oh, jump slides. All right, let's go through this. So what do we see right here? Let me widen the screen. All right, a couple of things. Secure, that's a financial firm out in I think Reno, Nevada, laid off 104 people as of January 5th, which is today, if I'm not mistaken. Confirm that. No, today is the 6th. That was yesterday. Genesis, crypto firm, definitely impacted. Last month we talked about FTX, and also, the crypto market was in a bear market in general. The FTX collapse did not help matters at all. They're laying off 60 people. That's 30% of their workforce. There's some other verticals here. We're not going to go through all the verticals. Going to jump into real estate. Compass is doing layoffs. We don't have exact numbers there. Keep moving forward. Amazon, huge, 8,000 employees, 2% of their workforce. Salesforce, 8,000 employees, 10% of their workforce. Keep going down. Wire, another crypto firm. Oh wow, this looks like they're closing up shop. 100% of their workforce. You know what? They had a deal, right? I think Bolt. They were going to get acquired last year for 1.5 billion. That fell through. So now this week, 100%. So it looks like they're closing up shop. Crypto platform, Wire. Keep moving forward. Octopus Network, another crypto platform, 40% of their workforce. Okay. There's some information on Wire. Let me get some of my notes right here. I came across, wanted to share that. Happened with Wire, some stuff. Yeah, so it was an acquisition in place for last year. It was going to set for 1.5 billion from a San Francisco e-commerce startup Bolt. That fell through. And recently, MetaMax just removed Wire from their list of aggregators and mid shutdown for it. So 100% of their workforce, they are shutting down, obviously. Don't have further details on that. All right, so let's now move on. Let me put this comment section on. So over the holidays, it looks like Slack's private GitHub code repository was breached. Some tokens were stolen. So the incident involves threat actors gaining access to Slack's externally hosted GitHub repositories via a limited number of Slack employee tokens were stolen. While some of Slack's private code repositories were breached, Slack's primary code base and customer data remain unaffected. So that's what's going on there. So it doesn't look like anybody was customers. Slack is like the primary messaging service used. I mean, most startups use Slack right now. And there's all sorts of groups and things like that. You can access externally. A lot of Microsoft hosted shops, they use Teams as well, but Slack has definitely taken over as a messaging server within the startup community. Let's read something. Wait, give me a second. I'm having some other issues. Give me 1 second, guys. Jump back into the thing. All right, apologies for that. All right, so let's jump into an official quote from Slack. So on December 29th, 2022, we were notified of suspicious activity on our GitHub account. Upon investigation, we discovered that a limited number of Slack employee tokens were stolen and misused to gain access to our externally hosted GitHub repository. Our investigation also revealed that the threat actor downloaded private code repositories on December 27th. No downloaded repositories contain customer data, means to access customer data, or Slack's primary code base. So a couple of things from that. Why are tokens and why do you have the tokens in Git? So that's something to kind of think through. I know it's some scanners when you upload code. I mean, some of the things that it looks for is like, any type of keys, tokens, and things like that to prevent such things from happening. So interesting. Let's move on. So it looks like while we were away, it's probably older news now, but we're going to talk about it. We haven't talked about it here. Twitter was breached. So initial report said 400 million users' private information was breached, but it looks like there was some duplicates. So now it's 200 million, from my understanding. And the attacker is basically looking for $200,000 for Twitter to be paid. And they warned that if the demand is not fulfilled, the data will be released for free. The latest set of data posted on the hacker forum has been traced back to the same breach of December. right, cool. We have some. All right, we have a comment. Like you said, we post comments from our audience. Dashima. It seemed like all press releases, happy events include only a limited number of XX stolen access are stolen. Yeah, I mean, it's hard to get details, right? Usually details happen, months afterwards after an investigation, but the initial reports, they don't want to give details. There are also some articles indicating that, they want to limit the access to the information. In a sense, they're not putting it on their international blogs and so forth. It's one of those things. I mean, how transparent do you want to be? So companies are constantly private about what's going on, and you get full transparency after the fact, especially if users were impacted, and it's something like that where it's potential class action suits. Sometimes there's a little bit more transparency comes out because legally they have to get to the bottom of it. So, but totally see your point. Thanks for the comment, Dashima. Thanks for viewing the show. Appreciate it. Okay, like we said, we post our comments from our audience. We love comments from the audience interaction. All right, so back to this Twitter breach. I mean, let's look what happened, right? So months ago, we reported massive layoffs on the Twitter front once it was purchased by Elon Musk. It went private. Now we're seeing, a breach. But it's interesting with this breach because what they're saying is that the same vulnerability was used for another exploit in July 2022. Also, many users on Twitter demanded that the social media platform looks into security as these hacks put activists and whistleblowers in danger, especially if some people are using anonymous names. And I mean, we take for granted. I mean, there's sometimes you have situations where political protests in other countries where their government is not as lenient. So these people want to post anonymously. So now if the information gets out, some retribution can be enacted against certain activists and so forth in these types of countries. There's things going on around the world. I know there was some protests going on in Iran and, resulted in executions. So, this is serious. So, a lot of people use Twitter. We start looking globally as a platform where they can share information and also protest against the government. And if that government necessarily find out who they are, it could be severe. So when you look at it from that perspective, it is kind of it's serious. So those are the news topics for the day. Now we're going to move on to the main topic. All right, so what we're going to talk about today, the main topic is the evolving landscape of cybersecurity, what to expect in 2023. So like many of you, you start to wonder at the end of the year, okay, what's going on? What should we expect? So, just doing the necessary, some research around that, and decided let's make a show of it. Let's some of the stuff that we came across, let's talk through it. Let's see if our audience members have things to add, questions, or just comments of things that they're noticing. So here's some of the things from some of the articles that we read that we're gonna talk through today. What do we expect and moving forward from there. So first thing, zero trust. Before we get into zero trust, like what exactly is zero trust? So essentially, it's a model that assumes that all users, devices, and systems within an organization's network are potentially untrustworthy and must be continuously verified before being granted access. So I mean, if you look at it now, right, sometimes you get access to the perimeter, what we call the perimeter. You're inside your internal network, like your job and so forth. So once you get access to it, right, you put your password or some MFA token. It can be multi-factor authentication. You get access now. Now you could start traversing throughout the entire system. Zero trust stops that. Just because you have access doesn't mean that you're 100% trusted. Now, when you want to access certain resources, you have to get continuously verified throughout your interaction in the system. So what it helps prevent, or the goal of it, right, is, if you have an actual attacker that breached your network, even though they're in, they just can't randomly start doing lateral movement. So the goal of zero trust, from my understanding, is to limit that type of activity. So now when they try to access certain data repositories or certain resources, they have to get verified again and so forth. They have to be validated over and over again. So that's really the goal of that type of architecture. What they're saying is, in this particular thing to look out for, implementation issues. It's not an easy task. I mean, especially when you start looking at legacy systems and mixed with hybrid cloud environments. Now you want to basically bolt on this new architecture on top of it to have continuous verifications within the system. So one of the things that one of the articles that we researched said security teams will not adequately implement the zero trust framework, leading to less trust. Definitely something to look out for. I mean, everyone's talking about it because of increasing the hardening your environment and so forth, and it makes sense. But the implementation may fall short and have some issues around it. So planning it and really kind of understanding how to implement it is going to be critical. All right, that's one trend. Adversaries sidestep new security technology. So, yeah, same concept, right? With another trend, right? We have things that we want to put in place to harden our environments. MFA. Why wouldn't we want to put multi-factor authentication? That basically is the idea of being, more than one way to log into an account. You guys have seen it throughout. You've seen it in situations in which you log into your bank. And then, I mean, if you set it up correctly, which I would advise, right? Just don't have one way to get into your bank account, with like a password. You want to send a text message. You might have an authentication app or so forth. So it's just that's what they mean by multi-factor authentication. It's just multiple ways to get into the system, not just one. This way, if someone were to get access to your password, they would need something in addition to access the said application. So with that said, there's another trend is adversaries or threat actors essentially figuring out ways to sidestep MFA, sidestep EDR solutions, and basically solutions looking for like malicious activity and malware and so forth. So with some attackers having succeeded at circumventing non-phishing resistant MFA this past year, and more organizations relying on it than ever before, this technology will grow as a top target next year. Similarly, adversaries have been honing EDR evasion techniques. So, I mean, we basically put all these tools to harden our environment and they seem good, but then at the other end, right, someone's working to say, how do we circumvent this? How do we get around this? So, it's a couple of things. Let's talk through. Let's talk through that for a second, because it's a couple of things that I'd like to. Go back here. So AMSI, anti-malware scan interface, is Microsoft's framework that allows third-party anti-malware solutions to have visibility into Microsoft components and applications such as PowerShell, script engines, .NET framework. So the anti-malware, so these EDR solutions essentially access the framework to scan files, memory, and so forth, because the EDR solution is an anti-malware solution. So they're basically leveraging AMSI, which is an anti-malware interface, to gain insight into Microsoft's environment. So from an attack perspective, there are methods attackers may use to bypass AMSI, such as reflection, which is basically they start flooding this anti-malware scan interface. So it's like a denial of service attack. See if I remember some of these. COM server hijacking. COM, what does that stand for? I think it's component. I had it written down somewhere. I don't want to give false information. I forget the actual acronym, what it stands for, but it's like a control server. So essentially hijacking that server. Let's go back. We're going fast. memory patching. So attackers basically gaining access and modifying the memory components of this anti-malware scan interface as well. So these are some attack methods that attackers can use to potentially bypass some EDR solutions or cause issues within. And that, once again, that relates back to the sidestepping new security technologies. So let's move forward. This trend I found interesting. Didn't think about this one, right? This is a bit of a surprise, but they say black hat hackers for hire on the rise. So essentially, obviously, we see that it's a recession, and politicians are not calling it a recession. Who knows? But we see what's happening: massive layoffs, inflation, all these things, leading into some sort of economic decline. So when times get hard, people start to do things they might not have necessarily done prior. So what this trend is basically saying is there's a concept of security as a service, but even on the threat actor side. So there are tools out there like phishing as a service, where you or scripts that you can purchase and then invoke attacks. So they basically package up security hacking solutions that one can purchase. So what this trend is saying, that people with a technology background could potentially resort to purchasing these solutions and committing crimes for economic gain. They're saying that their tools enables potential attackers to enter the world of crime with less skills and talent, however, with a guarantee of proven success. That seems to be an interesting trend. When I saw that, I was a little bit of a surprise, but makes sense. I'm going to pause right here, see what's going on with other solutions. Okay, I got some. Give a shout out to some people that joined. Success Jay, thanks for joining. He's feeling my man. Question. Cool. Some people joining Instagram. Want to give a quick shout. Okay, let's move on. Car hacking will be involved. Look, some of these cars are basically big computers that drive, and like anything that is controlled. Look, anything. Let me just say this. I think we had this conversation when I was in grad school. With there was a lot of theory and a lot of talk. I was in one of my cybersecurity cars. Look, once you hook up some type of technology to something that is performing like a computer, it's accessing data, it's leveraging it, it could be breached. It's just a matter of time and time and resources, right? So on that note, you go in a car like a Tesla or some of these newer cars. It's basically a gigantic computer. So it could be breached. Attackers could figure out ways. So what this trend is saying, that will be in vogue. I like the way they say in vogue and style. Car features seamless connectivity, or features such as cruise control, engine time, and door locks, virtual assistants. Criminal actors will start hacking cars via Bluetooth and Wi-Fi technologies, whether they are eavesdropping or actually manipulating features on demand. Even on YouTube, if you look at car hacking, I remember seeing one in which someone was able to access a vehicle via their audio system. So that's an interesting trend. AI role inside. Look, artificial intelligence is here to stay, and it's going to get even more expansive. We did a show a few weeks ago on ChatGPT and just different models. So the same way cybersecurity professionals will start and have started and use some of these tools. AI is basically artificial intelligence is being used, especially when you're traversing through large amounts of data. Why wouldn't attackers leverage the same technology? It's a race, right? At the end of the day, you have people who are protecting, you have people that are hacking, and both are racing towards solutions. The biggest difference, though, and you can tell by some of the breaches that occurred during the holidays, most of the protectors take holidays. They take off. They take off. They go on vacation and so forth. Especially when you're a W-2 employee, you have mandatory vacations. Sometimes attackers those are the best times when they work, right? They work when you're sleeping, so odd hours in the morning. You're going to have most people typically work in a certain type during the day. So if I'm attacking you, I'm going to work and try to put attacks in when you're sleeping. If I know that most people go on holidays that leave, a lot of staff, short staff and so forth, and people are not as aware, right? Why wouldn't I want to send phishing campaigns during the holiday break, the New Year's break, the Christmas break? Do start doing denial of service attacks then when your staff is a skeleton crew. So, saying all that to say, right? AI, same concept. Like, well, of course, I could totally see that. It's going to evolve. It's being leveraged for business purposes. Like every company right now has some sort of AI model solution or whatever. Well, you could definitely see this coming to fruition on the cybersecurity side. All right, moving on. Supply chain attacks intensifying vendor due diligence. Yep, I see this one coming. Criminal organizations have found repeated success with attacking vendors and managed service providers of large organizations to access sensitive data, and this will continue. Listen, what holds true, and this saying, I don't know who came up with it originally, but it could be applied. You are as strong as your weakest link. Full stop. Period, as my niece says. Right? So when you start, and that's why vendor due diligence is so important, right? Like you have to see, okay, do they have minimum security requirements, right? We're not even talking about, I don't have to be, CIA level, but if you're a company working with different vendors, you have to, and especially they have access to your data or connecting into your systems. Extremely important that some vendor due diligence is put forth, right? Because some of these attacks that we see that actually work are not the overly complex things you see in a movie, right? They're real sometimes just low-hanging fruit because guess what? Everyone is ROI, even attackers. So the return on investment. So if I'm going to have to spend weeks on weeks to breach a system, why wouldn't I just want to, send out massive amounts of email, which is simple and easy, with some sort of a link attached to it. When they click on the email, some payload is downloaded, and then they're breached. I mean, now, does the vendor have proper training, or do they have certain phishing tools that monitor email? I mean, that's basic, right? To other things around their controls and their policies and so forth. And that could easily be verified, and so forth, especially, and there's tools that can help with that. So there's tools that can automatically connect into a vendor's infrastructure and then basically look through to see, are they adhering to certain basic policies? And then they could share that with you. But in general, I definitely see it. I mean, supply chain attacks, on all levels, right? I mean, that's just vendor stuff. But if you look at developers and libraries that they're importing, are they vulnerable and so forth? I mean, it could be a whole conversation on this. I mean, if you look, I did videos on this like 2 years ago, supply chain attacks, but more so around, and then I did like videos on LinkedIn. I mean, they're definitely there if you Google my name and stuff like that. But totally see this as a trend. All right, let's move on. Now, this was interesting. The adoption of Secure Access Service Edge, SACE, will accelerate. So I have to be honest, definitely in some of working, heard of this tool, heard of this architecture, but I haven't really dived into it. And I just did some overall research for the show. Now I'm obviously interested. So what is SAFE? So basically, it allows any endpoint to access any application over any network in a protected manner. It's a network architecture that contains VPN and an SD wide area network with cloud native security functions built in. So let's put some notes here. So the goal of SAFE is to provide a more flexible, agile security solution that can adapt to the changing needs of organizations and the evolving threat landscape. By consolidating security functions and services in cloud, SAFE architecture can reduce the complexity and cost of security management while providing a higher level of security and visibility. So, I mean, it's and look what Gartner says. Hold up, let's go for a big screen right now. So Gartner forecasts that the total worldwide end user spending on SaaS technology will reach $9.2 billion in 2023, a 39% increase from 2022, which makes sense. I mean, right now, everyone, breaches are all over. So anybody promising ways to assist with that, I can see this going up. And what this basic architecture is helping. I mean, you look at now with the flood of remote working, more cloud technologies are being used. How are we protecting our cloud environments? Sometimes we have these environments of cloud and on-prem solutions. What's the plan? So that's why this architecture is so interesting. Let's look further into it. So I wanted to see, how do you adopt, how do you actually implement this technology? So just some basic investigation. So what they're saying is, first, you have to identify the security functions and services that are needed, which, totally makes sense. So, you get your requirements, right? So in building any type of architecture, that's what you would have to do. So what they're saying now is, okay, do you need some sort of virtual private networks? You have to understand the business, understand how the companies interacted and so forth. You need a firewall and so forth. Then you start evaluating some solutions. So some vendors out there, just from general research, you have Palo Alto Network, Cisco, Versa, Perimeter 81, Zscaler, etc. Then you integrate the SaaS solution with your existing security infrastructure. The SaaS solution should be integrated with the company's existing infrastructure, including on-premise security systems and cloud-based resources. Then you deploy SaaS capabilities, and a solution should be deployed in the cloud and configured to provide the necessary security functions. Let's go what's next. Monitor and maintain the solution, right? You always have to monitor the output from these solutions. And you make adjustments where needed. And then you train users on how to use it. You'll have some security functions that'll be responsible for it. Interesting. We'll be interested to do an actual deeper dive show to it, bring a guest on maybe who has some experience with this technology and dive into it. Really sounds interesting. So on that note, that concludes our show for today. I'm going to give it a second because sometimes people drop in comments and so forth. But, I'm putting our social medias and stuff on this. We have, like I said, Facebook, Tech Behind FinTech, LinkedIn, Tech Behind FinTech, Instagram, Tech Behind FinTech, YouTube. We have a YouTube channel as well. But if you just go to techbehindfintech.com, all of these links will be posted. So that concludes our show. Jamil just joined. Hey, what's up? I have to get you back on the show, brother, and dive into you, man. Talk about I see some interesting things you're doing. You definitely have to come back. We have to figure out a date. Thanks for joining. Appreciate it. So that concludes the show for today. Once again, I'm so excited to be back, but I'm not gonna lie, the break was definitely appreciated. We do this nonstop every single Friday. But it was just a one Friday break for the new year. So in general, when we do take off, you'll definitely get a heads up. But we'll be here every day. Like I said, every Friday, 12 p.m. We have an interesting lineup of topics we want to dive into and some guests we're going to reach out to bring on. But that's really the conclusion of the show. I wish everybody an extremely happy Friday, a wonderful weekend. Once again, thanks for viewing it. Thanks for the behind the scene messages you guys send. Appreciate all of it. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Take care. Cheers. And let's close out with our have our cool thing that I love to close out with. We have our own theme song now. So let me come off the screen and we're going to pop the theme song on and then we'll close out with that. And then we'll put the thank you message. Cheers.
Understanding the technology that powers the money is essential. Knowing the business drivers that inspire how the money is made is crucial. Bridging the gap between the mind of the technologist and the mind of the business is monumental. That is what TBF is all about. Let's start this never-ending conversation. It's time.